Hey folks, welcome to Northern California, wine country, a road that we're casually familiar with, but not as familiar with as our home roads. So we hope we can give you a good street driving impression of the new Civic Type R.
Ooh.
Very exciting car. In this video, we will go over what has been changed and updated from the last Civic Type R to this one, how it compares to the cheaper but still very effective Elantra N, and the new hype beast, the GR Corolla, and most importantly, is it worth the $44,000 plus markup that they want for it, and should you buy one? Right?
Yes.
That's it.
Those are the
That's
important
it.
questions.
Yes, based on the newest, obviously, Civic chassis, this Type R is longer, lower, and wider than the outgoing car.
Yep.
Easily distinguishable by a new front end, smaller 19-inch wheels. Ding.
Yes.
Ding.
Props to them for that.
Props to them for that. No more Rams, smaller 19-inch wheels. And the fender flares are now molded into metal. It's not over fenders
basically,
anymore.
most of the body of this car is different from the normal Civic. Like the hood, fenders, rear fenders, even the rear doors. Everything is flared out and integrated, so it doesn't look like a bolt-on flare or some sort of addition. It's all, from the factory. Well,
it was from
the factory in
before.
general.
But
Yeah.
from certain angles,
From design.
it's hard to tell that the fender flares are there.
Yeah.
The best way to tell that they're there are from behind. When you're trailing it, you can really tell the difference, and it's actually it's a really classy Type R.
It's a really good, smooth-looking design.
Right.
I mean, kind of looks like the Accord, but they've widened the track front and rear, an inch in the front, almost an inch in the rear from the previous car.
Right.
But it's so subtle with those flares that it kind of hides it well.
Right. The engine is not all new, but heavily revised. 2-liter turbo, obviously VTEC, 315 horsepower at 6,500 RPM, 310 pound-feet from 2,600 RPM to 4,000, so that's a +9, +15 versus the old car. It actually has some hardware changes. The internals of the turbo, the intake system, the cooling system is redesigned, the exhaust is redesigned.
They did a lot with the cooling system because the previous car had problems on track. It was notorious for that. It overheated. Like the front area is almost 50% wider to help bring in a lot more air. They did a lot with that.
Right. They also reduced the flywheel by 18%, shaved 18% of the mass off the flywheel. Shorter throws on the shifter. Still a mechanical limited slip differential for the front wheel drive. 15% improvement in structural rigidity versus the old car. And retuned adaptive dampers. I have a lot of notes, but why doesn't Zach hit the road and we can discuss?
You can read on the way. They changed a lot of things at small amounts for this car.
Right. And your drive mode selector can do Comfort, Sport, R, and now Individual, which allows you to choose your own adventure. And if we just open up that Customized, you can change the engine, the steering, the suspension, the engine sound, the rev matching, which we have turned off because once you know how to drive stick, you shouldn't use it anymore, and the gauge cluster style.
Yes. The rev match you can adjust in this menu, but to turn it off, you have to kind of go deep into the vehicle settings.
Yeah, there's a Sport, a Comfort, and then an off for the automatic rev matching. One of those things where I'm glad it's there, and I'm glad you can shut it down.
Yes.
Folks, you know what I've been doing for as long as I have been driving cars professionally? Actually, longer. Going to therapy. I'm not ashamed of it. I talk about it a lot, and it's really helped me. And I was going to therapy in person, but ever since the pandemic, even my personal therapist turned virtual. And now I understand better than ever the benefits of virtual therapy. And if you don't have a therapist already, in person or virtual, that's why I think you should know about BetterHelp. There are times when you just don't want to talk about things in your life to your friends, to your family, to people at work, right? You need an impartial expert who can help put your feelings and your experiences into context, give you advice, and help you think your way out of sometimes when, stuff gets hard, stuff gets bad. It happens to all of us. Happens to me. It happens to people who have objectively very good lives. And BetterHelp is an excellent system. It's a customized online therapy session. They offer video, phone, and live text chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera. You don't have to look at anyone if you don't want to. Right? There is a broad range of expertise in BetterHelp's 20,000 plus therapist network that give you access to help that may not be available in your area locally. All you have to do is fill out a questionnaire to help assess your specific needs, and then you can get matched with the therapist in as little as 48 hours. Then you schedule video and phone sessions, plus you can exchange unlimited messages with your therapist at any time. If that therapist isn't working for you, it's no big deal. You can request a new therapist at no additional charge anytime until you find one that really matches your needs. So join the 3 million plus people who have taken charge of their mental health, myself included, with an experienced therapist at BetterHelp. And if you hit the link in the description, you can get 10% off your first month at BetterHelp by going to betterhelp.com, HELP/smoking tire. The link is in the description, but try it out. It might make you feel better and maybe even quicker than you thought. BetterHelp.com/the smoking tire. Hit the link in the video description. And thanks to BetterHelp for sponsoring today's video. Fighting for traction.
Ooh. Brembo brakes, like 13.8 front, 12 rear, like 4 piston, big strong brakes. This thing is it's very quick. The last car was quick, and they haven't changed the power amount too much. It's a little more efficient, revs up a little quicker, but I don't think this car would have been better with 400 horsepower or 450.
Well, it's kind of at the limit of what you can put through the front wheels effectively.
That's true.
If you could give it more, but you're going to start either really overstressing driveline components, or you're going to really have trouble fighting traction. You're going to start getting torque steer, all that kind of stuff. It's a fine balance, and Zach hasn't driven it on track yet. I drove it on track for Road and Track P-Cody. It's really composed. It's not this wild, loosey-goosey kind of car where you're fighting for traction. It's very composed. It's really good at getting the power to the ground and maintaining a balance at the mid-corner. Oh, and we are now stuck behind a truck. Maybe we should pause.
Their turnout perfect. There's a turnout.
Yeah, this Ford Ranger is not going to give us the love. It's got tons of brakes. And with the redesigned front end and the redesigned water pump and radiator, it can do, I didn't do a 50-lap session, but it'll do a 10-lap session easily without the temp going up.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they added fins on the transmission to help cool that down. That has a trans cooler as well. The last car had a lot of problems. It was supposed to be, Hondas for a long time, you could beat the crap out of the ITR Civic Type R, and they would just run all day. And then they came out with a new one with a turbocharged engine, and the first year it was like, these are, throwing codes at 3 laps in. Yeah. So big problem.
I overheated the one at Road Atlanta, the press car at Grid Life when I had it.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. But this one will hold up much better to track work. While we were just sitting there, you know what I noticed and love? Deep cup holders. You can put a cup of coffee or a 20-ounce bottle down here, or even like a Yeti, and it won't get in the way of the shifter.
Yeah, because it is behind the shifter, which is problematic in some cars, but
Mustangs. It's bad in Mustangs. So here, smash the throttle.
Full throttle.
So it gets the power down nice, right? Not a ton of torque steer.
Yeah, it does. I think it pulls a little bit of power, but it does it in a pretty invisible way.
Yeah.
Just to be good.
They changed a lot of hardware inside the steering. It's not just a recalibrated e-pass system.
Yeah.
I saw the slide of the hardware that they changed, and I don't know what any of those things do.
They changed a lot of stuff.
A bunch of stuff.
Both compared to the previous CTR, but also for anyone who's sitting there going, well, isn't this just like a tuned up Civic Si or one with a little bit more boost? The answer is no. There are a lot of differences in the hardware, in the transmission case itself. The gears are stronger. There's a lot of stuff.
This downhill section is good. We use this road on the Road and Track route to Vine, which is going to be this February. Ooh, maybe a little icy there.
It's not icy, but it is wet, and it's 38 degrees, 42 degrees.
Yeah.
I think we're on, what are we, PS4s today? This car is, you can get Cup 2s as an option. But
So for P. Cody, we had both tires. We had the PS4 for the road, and then we did a few laps on the track with them, and then they put the Cup 2s on. It was a pretty staggering difference when it came to lap times. I mean, even on a short track, it was over a second difference with the Cup 2s. But I probably wouldn't get those for my everyday car. I mean, what's really nice about this car is for all of its performance chops and all of its good inputs and all the things that we like about the dynamics of the car, it's still a really practical car. Like, the back seat is big.
yeah, I can sit behind myself.
Yeah.
And the car isn't that much longer than the previous one. The previous one was also a really roomy car. They're proud to say this is, I think, the longest car in its class.
Yeah.
But, at a certain point, that can be a problem if it's too big. But it still feels like a manageable size, comfortable front and back seat. Brake feels awesome. Like, I really like the response from the pedal. And, it wants to turn in, but they have a long wheelbase, so it's a little bit smoother.
Yeah.
Although, when we were on a really bumpy road earlier, I'll turn around for you, and, the car is stiff. Like, even in comfort mode, this is not gliding over things.
It's not, but compared to, I do think the Elantra N has a more comfortable comfort mode.
Agree.
But the GR Corolla, and I only drove the Morizo edition. I didn't drive the regular edition. But the GR Corolla really beat me up on the street, and this was a better ride on the street than the GR Corolla.
When I read they had redesigned the seats, I was concerned because the old seats were some of the best in any car, regardless of price, but I'm happy to say that they haven't ruined them at all.
They basically feel the same as the old car, but they're lighter. They pulled 7 pounds a seat out of the seat, which is impressive.
Was it pounds or percent?
Oh, was it percent?
I think it was percent.
7%, you're right. I'm in R mode, and we're going to do a launch. Good launch, actually. I love the shift lights above the cluster. That's great. Oh, yes, the brake feel. Oh, that is most definitely not an actual cop. I was going to say, is this going to be my day? Wow, way to cut the double yellow. The steering has good weight to it. Super sharp. I love the balance of comfort versus support in the seat. It really supports you almost like a racing seat would, but it's comfortable enough that you could drive it all day.
And this car does not have adjustable lumbar, but I think I have the perfect amount. And you and I both have back issues, but this is a really, really well-designed seat.
See, R mode, it's too stiff though. That's why I like the individual settings, because comfort shocks are really where it's at with these adjustable shocks. Honda nailing the shifter game. Best shifter south of like $100,000, or Boxster Cayman probably is up there as well.
Definitely.
But as far as like the sport compact car game, shout out to Toyota, because the GR Corolla shifter is pretty good, but this one is still the best. Started with the S2000 and never managed to ruin it, Honda. Nicely done. Pedal placement, excellent. Clutch feel is light, but really you can tell exactly what the thing is doing. Sound, right? A little artificial, maybe.
Yeah, because you can adjust the sound in the menu, and they told us they revised the exhaust and it flows a little better and it's a little louder and et cetera, et cetera. But even if you turn the enhanced sound off, it's not that loud outside, and they were trying to make it louder to make it more exciting, but it's a pretty quiet car.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back to individual with the comfort shocks, and everything else is in kill. minus the shocks, and that is about right.
And they did a lot of, like, again, little things. Like, they stiffened the knuckles on the car. They changed the caster a little bit. I mean, it almost tells me they realized they got the last Civic Type R so good.
Yeah.
They're like, what can we change? And the engineers went, what do you mean? Like, they had to really refine things here and there a little bit. So it's a little more reactive, just a little bit firmer without, breaking that perfect mold.
They've done a fantastic job. I mean, this is like a super engaging, quick, composed, balanced, car that can be kind of aggro when you want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's comfortable, it's practical. You can carry a lot of speed through corners, but also drive it for really long distances without it beating you up. I mean, I did a couple hours in it for P. Cody, and I thought it was great. It was definitely a favorite among the road and track staff.
Definitely, and the last one kind of wore its performance heart on its sleeve. Like, the exterior represented what it was capable of from a performance perspective, and the inside was like a very nice, comfortable place to live. And now I feel like it's a little bit more balanced in terms of appearance and that show the ability of the car, both as a comfortable GT daily and as a performance machine.
It's fun. It's really, really fun. As far as front-wheel drive cars go, it's about as good as that formula gets, unless you're really looking for something super small, like a first-gen Mini, like a R53 Mini, right? It doesn't feel
manic.
It doesn't feel manic, and it doesn't feel like you could just place it anywhere like you can with a Mini. Like, a Mini is like get in any hole.
Yeah.
This it feels like it drives its size. It's responsive, and it's fast, and it's composed, and it's good at all this stuff, but it doesn't feel, it's not like you start driving it and all of a sudden feels half its size. It feels its size.
Yeah.
But it still, offers really good performance and most importantly, really good inputs.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, we had Elantra N and GR Corolla and this on Performance Car of the Year. And my takeaway from those three is Elantra N gets awfully close to this thing speed-wise for $10,000 less.
Yeah.
The trade-off is that the inputs aren't quite as good. The shifter's not quite as nice. Mm-hmm. The clutch isn't quite as nice. But in terms of speed, the same driver will only be able to go maybe a second a lap quicker in this than in that. And that's a lot cheaper. And on the road, they're the same speed. This is a lot bigger and roomier and more usable as a family car than a GR Corolla would be.
Oh, definitely,
Which, even if the one has a back seat, it's a much smaller back seat. This has a big back seat.
And the Trunkiness is a nice size, whereas the GR Corolla, it's a pretty small hatch.
Right, and the GR Corolla on the street was kind of bouncy, whereas on the track, that stiffness, you could flick it and huck it and slide it, which is not what you're doing with this. But the trade-off is this is a much more composed street car, and I'd rather put 35,000 miles in 3 years on this than on the GR Corolla. I'd rather drive the GR Corolla on a track for 20 minutes and then hand it back. This I'd rather own. And that's kind of what other question? What other was the question? They've done a lot to fix it.
They changed a lot of things.
That's where it sits in the marketplace compared to its competitors. And should you buy one? Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't go out and spend $60,000 on one. It doesn't feel like that.
But if you can get it for MSRP or really, really close to it, I mean, this is a really great comprehensive car.
Yeah.
And that is hard to find. And I think it looks great, drives great, interior is super comfortable.
If you think you'll like it, you will like it. You don't look at it. If you look at it and go, that looks like something I'd like, then you won't be disappointed by the driving experience. So thank you to Honda for having us in the NorCal region to have a go in this thing. Thanks to you guys for watching, and we'll see you later.
And remember, always fight your tickets. Use code TST10 on the Off the Record app available in the Android and iOS store, or go to offtherecord.com/TST.